So it's another day of conflicting headlines regarding the US and Iran. And I think the long story short here is that until we get confirmation from the US, Israel, and Iran, it's most likely to be just speculative and rumors. So I'm going to take a look at dollar index, Aussie dollar, and Euro Aussie to make some sense of these levels around these headlines. Now, on the daily chart dollar index, if you remember last week, I was looking at a bullish setup for it to close this gap, and that has worked out pretty well. In fact, we got there last Wednesday. What I liked about this resistance zone as a likely stalling point is that you've got the monthly R1 pivot point. You've also got the lower wick of this gap that occurred between the 7th and 8th of April. So that window or gap has now been closed by the rally. But looking at the rally itself, it looks quite constructive to further gains to my eyes. We had this double bottom pattern around 97.50, a nice strong rally out of that, and now prices are in this bullish continuation pattern. So it's a little bit unclear whether we'll get a bit more of a pullback first, but overall, I'm looking for dips down to 98.50, which is by the monthly pivot point, but it might not even get there looking at what a little reaction you had to the downside despite positive headlines supposedly coming out on a US-Iran deal. So at the moment, looking for pullback over the near term of the US dollar, ultimately dips, but this could be moving up above these highs towards 100. Keeping on the bigger picture here, I'm standing by my guns for now at least that we've seen the end of an ABC correction at the end of April. So this is almost like a last hurrah for the dollar towards 100, and I'm looking for this price to roll back over at least within this range, possibly even to new lows as we get through the year. Now, the Aussie dollar is an interesting one because we've had this wonderfully bullish trend up to the May high, and looking at positioning in recent weeks even, it's been very stretched to the bullish camp. So I think there's a sentiment extreme has been reached after a very strong run for the Aussies. So it just needs a bit of consolidation, a bit of a pullback. Not looking for anything extreme. We had a bit of a 2-week pullback. Notice that the second week of that pullback was a pretty narrow range and a doji above the monthly pivot point. So I think there is certainly potential here for some further gains over the near term. But when I look at the daily chart, I remain skeptical of it being a big rally from here. Now, we've reached my downside target from this rising wedge pattern, chosen because it's the swing low of the pattern itself. You've also got the monthly pivot point, and you've also got the 71 cents handle. And I just like how I was looking for bullish setups earlier because you've got this double failed attempt to break beneath the support zone around 71 cents. It's now trying to turn higher, but when I look at the intraday time frames, it just looks a bit haphazard. Doesn't really look like a compelling impulsive move to me. So sure, there's potential here for further gains. We've got 72 cents. We've got the high volume node from this area up here. You've also got the weekly R2 sits just above that high volume node. So certainly over the near term on the intraday time frame, looking for dips towards 72 cents thereabouts, whilst the US dollar potentially pulls back. But I think that that's where we might see some sort of a swing high and the bigger movement lower on the Aussie. Reason being is that when you look at the daily chart, we've got a nice directional move lower towards 71 cents. I think that's an A move. This is the B move up towards maybe 72, then perhaps we'll get a swing high, break between these lows towards 70 cents. Overall, I do remain bullish on the Aussie as the year develops. So I'll reconsider bullish setups above or around 70 cents. We're just looking for smaller moves at the moment. Now, if I'm right in thinking that the dollar pulls back, the Aussie rise over the near term before the bigger moves, that leaves upside potential for Euro Aussie over the near term. Now, this one's a bit of a cheeky, noisy setup, sure, because it has been in a very good downtrend for quite some time. But I do like how prices have rallied from these lows. You've got a double bottom around the March low and the monthly S1 pivot points. Cheeky pull up, and now it's kind of retracing in a right or falling wedge pattern. So let me just compare that to the intraday time frame to give a better idea what I'm looking at here. And nice movement up. You can see the highs and lows are converging as prices kind of drift low but holding above that support level. You've also got the weekly S1 around 162. So ultimately, I'm looking for dips down to these lows, not that far. But ultimately, whilst prices remain a bit above this low, I think there's potential here for another leg higher, possibly up to this cycle high or the pivot point up here. So I'm not looking for a significant turning point at this moment in time, but I do think this could potentially be a bullish flag at the bottom of an established downtrend over the near term. So essentially move up to this 164.50 area. As always, hope that's useful. Wish you best of luck with your trading.